public service or for all of her accolades, but for her guava cheese. She was exceptional at some of these delicacies that we enjoy here. And so please, family, accept my condolences. Let me also extend condolences on the passing of Janice Nisbet. Janice was a maestro at playing the pan, and her passing hurt me very deeply because I recall that the last engagement I had with her was at a celebration in Fountain, and she was playing, and I decided to do something Facebook Live, and we had a very good time there. She was a virtuoso when it comes to the pan, steel pan. She played on her own. She was a one-person band, a one-woman band, if you will, and she has entertained us for many, many years. And so I would want to extend again to her family our deepest condolences. I think that a steel pan icon and a cultural treasure has been lost to the island of Nevis. If I can also extend condolences to so many others. I am remembering, for example, the Liebert family, Maggie and her family. They've just buried their mom, only told that their uncle, somebody known to all of us as Boops, that he has passed as well. And so tragedy continues to lurk for all of us. And I would want all the families that are mourning, all the families that are having some difficulty, to know they're in our prayers. And I'm prayerful that they will be comforted in this, their hour of bereavement. Let me move very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, to indicate that we have some congratulations, I think, that are in order. Mr. Uriel St. Clair Swanston, stalwart of the NRP, a man who has been a part of our political landscape for very, very many years. He was awarded a Companion of the Star of Merit for Social and Economic Development in Nevis. We also have Mr. Franklin Brand, also somebody who at one point was a heavyweight in the politics and decided that he no longer wanted to take that vow of poverty, which all of us politicians take, but wanted to go back into business. And so Mr. Brand was also awarded the Companion of the Star of Merit for Business Stewardship and Community Activist. And, of course, Miss Lorna Paulsley, Lorna Wilkin, she got the Medal of Honor for Education. And she is someone who has performed remarkably well here in education and has given yeoman service, or should I say yeowoman service, to the people of Nevis and the wider education community across the Federation. And so congratulations to all three for having received national awards this year. We also, of course, each year seek to award locally here in Nevis individuals for outstanding achievements. Ms. Paulsy Wilkins appears on that list as well, so she was awarded both locally and nationally. I suppose that speaks for itself. She was awarded for education. In music, we had Mr. Curtly Maynard and Mr. Carlisle Bingy Pemberton. Mr. Curtly Maynard, of course, famous for the Casanova Band and his songs there, and Mr. Carlisle Bingy Pemberton, famous in the Calypso arena. In sports, Mr. Austin Callabrown from Brown Hill, who played for Nevis and gave us many memorable innings as an opening batsman. And for health, Mrs. Ernest Manners. In community services, we had Miss Christiana Smith and Mrs. Vanita Walters. And those who know Vanita knows she's famous for her good water there at Hilltop Restaurant. In business, Mr. Dexter Hawley and Mr. Troy McCoy. Mr. Troy McCoy is a personal friend of mine, and I was quite happy to see that is over 20 years of providing haircuts to everybody in Nevis, men and women, that he has been duly awarded for his role in business. And in culture, we had Mr. Elton Archibald and Mr. Eugene Chevy Shiverton. And you know Chevy, of course, famous for Maria Dudu and other songs. So we say congratulations to them all. Congratulations, and since I'm now in that mode, I also extended, and this for me is near and dear to my heart, to Miss Michelle Slack. She has been named the 2021 Chevening Scholar from the Barbados and Eastern Caribbean region. She will be pursuing a Master of Law in Drafting Legislation, Regulation, and Policy at the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies, School of Advanced Studies, University of London. I would want to wish Michelle all the best. I know her mom in particular, my dear friend Ulrika, is very proud. And of course, her dad, Mr. Slack, is also proud. And so we extend congratulations to Michelle. I just want Nevisians to consider that winning a Chevening Scholarship is no mean feat. It's no easy feat. It is an incredible achievement. And here is one of our own leading the way, flying the flag, if you will, for St. Kitts and Nevis this year. Let me congratulate also Mr. Sakil Seeley and Mr. Patrick Brandy for being recipients of the 2021 Taiwan Scholarships. They're going away to Taiwan to pursue studies. And let me congratulate my dear friend, Miss Blondell Brown from Brownhill again, on her promotion to housekeeping manager in Residences Villas at the Four Seasons Resort. Let me also congratulate Mr. Jemoy Fudd Tyson on his promotion to Resort Landscaping Assistant Manager, again at the Four Seasons Resort. I'm incredibly proud when our people do great things, and I think we ought to celebrate them, and I do so unreservedly. Ladies and gentlemen, we move now into some of the ministries and the work that we have been undertaking. The Nevis Water Department, in collaboration with the Ministry of Water Services, recently held a retirement ceremony for 3 retirees from the department. And I want to mention them by name. Mr. James Keynes, known to all of us as Tintin, he retired on the 19th of May. Mr. Conrad Huggins, better known to us as Monks, retired on the 8th of September. And Mr. Carlton Williams, or Cherry, retired on the 30th of September. Now, why do I mention these officers? I mention them because collectively, these officers gave the Water Department and the people of Nevis 116 years of service. 116 years of service. Mr. Keynes, he worked for 44 years. Mr. Conrad Huggins for 40 years. And Mr. Carlton Williams for some 32 years. So just imagine, these 3 gentlemen, the level of knowledge and experience that they would have acquired over that combined 116 years. We had a ceremony there, of course, Minister Brand and others, Minister Evelyn and Minister Jeffers, the Premier, they would all have given remarks. But I would want on behalf of the NIA to congratulate the retirees, wish them God's blessing in their future endeavors, and hope that they would have a healthy and active retirement. I'm also very, very proud, ladies and gentlemen, to announce that the Nevis Water Department has launched its ePay platform, electronic payment platform, as of Friday the 1st of October. We must congratulate Minister Brand and his team at the Nevis Water Department, led by Ms. Tonya Bartlett. The platform has provided another safe and convenient way for water customers to pay their bills from anywhere in the world at any hour of the day. You can now pay your water bill from anywhere in the world at any hour of the day. The general public is asked to sign up and take advantage of the opportunity, especially during this pandemic, where social distancing has become one of the non-pharmaceutical methods to curb and prevent the spread of the virus. You can access the platform through the Nevis Water Department website, www.neviswaterdepartment.com. Use it on tablet, laptop, or desktop and click in on Pay Your Bill. So we're making it easy for you to pay your bill. Please use the platform and pay your bill. I believe that this is a very noble effort as we move steadily forward on our pitch to e-government and to ensure that more and more of our services are available online. So I don't want people to say it was a holiday or they forgot or anything of that nature. You can now pay your bill, water bill, online at any hour of the day and any day of the week from anywhere in the world. Let me also note that is bittersweet because I want to announce the retirement of Mr. Gary Liebert from his post of Chief Labor Officer, and he would have retired effective the 30th of September. Why do I say it's bittersweet? It's bittersweet because we all know Gary. We all know the Herculean effort that he would have given to government over his years of service, and he would have served a long career, dating back, I believe, to 1992. Gary, however, the sweet part, that's the bitter part that he has left us. The sweet part is that he will be taking up the reins as the head manager here at the Social Security Board for the island of Nevis. And so we congratulate Gary Liebert. We feel that this is an excellent opportunity for him as a young individual, and we wish him all the best as we continue to work closely with Social Security. And if I can make a plug for him, for Social Security and for our island, please continue to pay your Social Security contributions. Why do I say that? I say that because it's an investment in yourself. A lot of us see it as a tax. It's not a tax. It is a retirement fund. It's an investment in yourself. And we saw, especially during this pandemic, the relevance of Social Security, because they were able to come to our rescue with income support schemes that assisted many of us and the most vulnerable. So please, if you're out there in business and not yet registered, get registered under the self-employed scheme. And if you are working, ensure that your employer is doing the necessary. And those employers who are deducting their employees' money and not paying it to Social Security, please stop. Go to Social Security. Do the right thing. It's an investment in yourself, an investment in our island. So, Gary, I'm helping you already, but I believe that this partnership that we have ought to continue. I'm very pleased, ladies and gentlemen, I think as you drive around the island, and particularly in the parish of St. Paul's and in our capital of Charlestown, you will see what I can only describe as a transformation that is happening. From new road signs to new roads to new sidewalks, there is really a tremendous transformation that is happening in Charlestown. And again, kudos to Minister Brand. I recall fondly when we campaigned, he said to the people of St. Paul's, give him a chance and he will earn the rest. And he has demonstrated, as he said, a brand new style of leadership in St. Paul's. And we must give him credit. We see at Jew Street from Government Road to Chapel Street that has been resurfaced. Work there included a number of items of activities to achieve that reality. Installation of a concrete culvert at the top of Happy Hill, installation of concrete drains and curbs. Sidewalk from Marion Avenue to Credit Union is now complete, as are all the paving bricks are being laid. The next item of work for the sidewalk area is installation of landscaping between the sidewalk and the wall, and the installation of metal railing atop the wall of the Anglican manse. The next phase of Jew Street project will now commence. This involves drainage and roadway rehabilitation work on Chapel Street from the Maud Cross School to the intersection of the old Credit Union building. Road work in the corner at the intersection of Jew Street and Government Road is ongoing. This corner is being widened to eliminate the bottlenecks so as to improve traffic flow at that location. In Butlers, if I can switch now to the parish of St. James, work has been primarily confined to Cistern Road, or Cistern Path as I know it. The old roadway has been excavated, and based off the new road alignment will be set out and initial grading of the roadway will be done. Also, works will now resume on the road known in the village as the Range. We can now proceed as all the issues relating to water distribution lines on that segment have been sorted out. And let me just explain very briefly that when we're doing road construction on the island, we also take the opportunity to upgrade the water distribution system. So every road that you see that is being done, water is also being upgraded at the same time. In Bath Village, in my own constituency, I would want to thank Minister Brand and his team because I'm advised that they will be mobilizing on the Bath Main Road shortly. Pre-construction activities have been finalized and we can now move forward. Over the ensuing 2-week period, the mobilization will occur. This will include cleaning and grubbing, temporary property fence relocation, along with the permanent fence wall construction at selected areas. And I know this has been a matter where some people have subjected us to criticism, but just so you know that our model in all of the road construction we've done is where we have through road realignment or widening to encroach on anybody's boundary line and take up a 2-foot, 3-foot space from their land. We have, one, fixed their boundary in the sense of getting the surveyor to assess and put in new boundary markers. We have, 2, replaced their walls or fences in compensation. So a lot of times when you see walls are being done, it's because we've taken in people's land and we're compensating them by putting up a proper wall, and so we hope enhancing the value of their property. Another approach would have been just to pay them some money. But we have found that this cooperative approach works because when it's done, everybody along that roadway has a nicely enhanced property. So that has been our approach, and we have used it in Hanley's Road, we've used it in Braziers, we've used it in Brownhill, we've used it in Shaw's Road, we use it all across the island where we have done roads, and it has worked well. And I appeal to the people of Bath and the homeowners along the main road in Bath to cooperate with us fully. I'm also very proud, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is worthy of mention, that we have now received a new Vogel asphalt paver. Let me emphasize new. Brand new from the factory. In the past, we've had pavers and all of those which have had some use already, and this one is brand new. And the reason for that, again, is as we invest in our infrastructure, as we build out Nevis, in what I like to say, by us and for us, we have invested in the necessary equipment to allow our people to work. You recall some months ago I would have come and said that we had invested in a machine that allows us to remove the surface from the road and replace it. And we have now come now and we have a brand new asphalt paver which will allow us to do roads faster, do them more efficiently, and best of all, to provide better quality. And that's what we continue to do. The department continues to undertake clearing of water courses, and work continues on the clearing of the water course in Clifton Estate, east of Fort Ashby. Works also include cleaning of water courses at Potworks and Newcastle around the perimeter of the Vance W. Amory International Airport. Let me switch very quickly to postal services, just to indicate that the Nevis Post Office, in collaboration with the Universal Postal Union, will be celebrating World Post Day, 9th October 2021, with a month of activities in October under the theme Innovate to Recover. The activities have already started with a Sunday service, church service at the Shiloh Baptist Church, and Minister Brand, the responsible minister, would have led his team at that service. We use this opportunity to thank and commend the management and staff at the Nevis Post Office for their selfless and dedicated service over the years, and especially in the last 2 years, where clearly we have been afflicted by COVID and they have been on the front line. Let me move quickly, members of the press and viewing and listening public, to the Tourism, Ministry of Tourism. And I'm very, very proud this morning as I stand here that just yesterday I saw for the first time the report from the highly respected travel magazine Condé Nast Traveler and their readers' Choice 2021 list of the top 20 destinations in the Caribbean and the Atlantic. They have put our little Nevis at number 2. And you know, as we would say here in our local parlance, we missed number 1 by because we at number 2 at 94.27, and St. Barbados and see what it is we're doing, because despite COVID and despite the difficulties that we have encountered, we have not stopped. The government has not stopped working, and the people in tourism have not stopped working. Let me stick with tourism and a tourism-related project. You know that I'm very proud of our Pinnis Park, which will be our first national park. Well, I'm pleased to announce today that, as you might have already heard in the media because we did a press release, that Mr. Dane Sandiford has been selected as the manager at the Pinnis Park. There were 65 applicants for the position, 2/3 of whom were residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, but applications were also received from Trinidad, Barbados, Dominica, St. Vincent, Antigua, Statia, the USVI USA, Brazil, and India. 11 candidates from those 65 were shortlisted, and these candidates were interviewed. Mr. Sandiford was chosen by the selection panel as the most fitting candidate due to his 20 years of experience in horticulture and the technical aspects of green space management, which includes landscape design, installation, and maintenance. Mr. Sandiford has extensive management experience, which includes 12 years at our own Four Seasons Resort, Nevis. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Horticulture and Landscape Design. He has also had extensive experience in managing horticultural projects in Nevis, Barbados, and Florida. I say that because I want the public to understand that we went through a very transparent and exhaustive process of seeking to find the best possible person to manage this park facility, which we hope will be a national treasure. And Mr. Sandiford applied. He lives here, has his own home here. This is his home, Nevis. He has been with us now for many years, including 12 years at the Four Seasons. He is from Barbados originally, but we felt unbalanced. Well, I shouldn't say we. The selection panel felt unbalanced that he was the best person for the job. And so we congratulate him, and we look forward to working with him. He will take up management of the site as of the 15th of October, and thereafter will be responsible for ensuring that the park at Pinnis is maintained in pristine condition. The park is scheduled to be completed in December 2021 and will feature a unique visitor center with a turf-covered roof. It will be the only building that we're aware of where the roof would be grass. A lawn amphitheater, children's playground, and acres of grounds landscaped with approximately 3,000 plants. The park is a collaborative project jointly funded by the Republic of China and Taiwan and the Nevis Island Administration. In terms of the park and progress, those technical people in charge of that process have now advised me that the park is 88% complete. Construction work is 88% complete, and the contractors are now engaged in finishing work, painting, tiling, installation of ceilings, electrical fixtures, and air conditioning. Landscaping is 77% complete. Some mature palms were recently transplanted at Pinnis Park. The Ministry of Tourism and the government, by extension, is very grateful for the generous contribution of these mature plants donated by Mr. John Paris, and we continue to encourage similar gestures from other civic-minded individuals. So if you have mature plants, mature palms, fruit trees that you want to donate, we will be happy to have them, and we thank Mr. Paris for coming forward and giving us these mature palms. Work will shortly proceed on the open lawn space in the center of the park, as well as the turf that will cover the roof of the visitor center as we now close out that project. News that some may want to hear: in a difficult job environment here due to COVID, I'm pleased to announce that there will be some vacancies at Pinnis Park. Suitably qualified persons are invited to apply to fill the roles of landscapers, public area attendants, and security officers at Pinnis Park. Application forms can be obtained from the Ministry of Tourism at the Social Security Building between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. as of Thursday, 7th October. So as of tomorrow, people can get forms, and we're looking for landscapers, public area attendants, and security officers at Pinnis Park. The Nevis Garden Competition, I mentioned that before, I am pleased that we received 22 competitors in the household category and some 7 in the business category. We got entries from all the parishes. The winners will be announced on the Saturday, the 16th of October, which is World Food Day. The Ministry of Tourism thanks the Ministry of Agriculture, the Department of Gender Affairs, and IECA, and many private sector partners, all of whom would have contributed to prizes for this garden competition. Let me segue to a topic that's near and dear to my heart, agriculture. In terms of agriculture and the Ministry of Lands and Housing, the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, let me start there. In September, we launched 2 housing developments in St. Paul's Parish. On the 9th of September, the Mountain Crest Residences development was launched at the top of Craddock Road with 21 available lots on 3.4 acres of land. And 2 weeks later, on September 23rd in Hamilton, we launched a Sugar Mill Residences with 15 lots on just over 3 acres of land. These developments have so far received more than 100 applications. And the number of applications tells us that there is tremendous pent-up demand. And we continue to ask the private sector to step in and assist with providing for the housing needs of the people of Nevis. Let me now move to agriculture. The Department of Agriculture will be observing World Food Day with a month of activities under the theme, Our Actions Are Our Future, Better Production, Better Nutrition, a Better Environment, and a Better Life. One of the main highlights will be Minister Jeffers, our Deputy Premier and Minister of Agriculture, defending his cooking championship in a virtual cook-off. Yes, he would have beaten me badly on the last occasion, so he wants to repeat. And so we will see how it goes this time. Other members of cabinet are likely to be involved. And the whole reason behind this is really to have some fun, but also bring attention to agriculture and to our thrust for greater food security and our thrust to feed ourselves. And so we would want to congratulate Deputy Premier Jeffers, Minister of Agriculture, not just here in Nevis, but federally as well, for the superb job that he and his permanent secretary, Mr. Sargent, and the team have been doing. They're going to have at the Cades Bay a farm, which I believe, if you have not yet visited, I'm hoping all of you will go and visit. A fantastic joint tourism. It's what they call a leisure farm, where you can go and pick fruit and eat fruit and get smoothies and see a farm at work, so to speak. We suggest you go and see that. That's just across from the Seabridge Dock. So those in St. Kitts who are listening, you can come over and just walk to the farm. They're going to have a Super Saturday there, and they're going to have farmers markets all across the island. Various activities and promotions and awards will be on offer. Efforts continue to reduce the importation of certain targeted food crops into the island, and we are pleased that we're seeing an additional 2 shade houses now brought into production, as well as aggressive planting of fruit trees all across the island, including a 35-acre fruit farm in Indian Castle. The items that we now have available locally, that is locally grown, organic items, are sweet peppers, watermelons, butternut squash, pumpkin, eggplant, and sweet potatoes. Please support our farmers or visit our brand new facility at the Lawrenson Parry facility at the Department of Agriculture right there in Prospect. The Lawrenson Parry facility was recently opened, and we are very proud of that achievement. We have lots there on offer, and we ask that you support our local farmers. Buy local, eat local. It's better for us, and it supports families across the island. Let me also say that the Nevis Fisheries Complex is in the process of receiving processing equipment both from the Japanese government and from the FAO CC4 Fish program. The ministry, along with Public Works, have assisted in some renovation to receive this equipment. Thus far, I believe we've spent just over 73,000 EC dollars to get the fisheries improved and to get the space equipped for this very specialized equipment. And what is that equipment, you may ask? From the Japanese government, we're getting a band saw, we're getting fillet machines, we're getting an ice machine, and we're getting a fish mince machine. From the FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, we're getting a vacuum seal pack, a fish smoke machine, and 2 freezers. This, of course, will support us in providing a wide range of fish products to the island of Nevis. Let me move quickly to Culturama. We had Culturama 47, the virtual edition, and by all accounts, Minister Eric Evelyn delivered again. He and his team, his prominent secretary, Mr. Glasgow, and of course Mr. Culturama himself, Abernathy Liebert. And I would want to commend them, but also commend all the sponsors, commend all the individuals who participated. This was the very first time that we had a virtual edition of Culturama, and it was a resounding success. This was Culturama 47. We had Culturama this year in September. Never happened before. We had to move and adjust because of COVID, but the standard, from all accounts, was quite high, and those people enjoyed themselves virtually. Now, in the Soca Monarch, we had the groovy category. The winner was Soca Empress. First runner-up, Delhi Ranks. Second runner-up, X-Man. In the power category, the winner was Easy. First runner-up, X-Man. Second runner-up, Speedy. And then, of course, the Calypso finals, we had the winner, Hollywood, King Hollywood. First runner-up, This and That. Second runner-up, Astro. Let me congratulate all of those who participated, but let me say a special word of congratulations to King Hollywood. Why? Because he has become now the only and first individual in the history of Kaiso in Nevis to win crowns back-to-back. With all the greats that we've had, and you know we've had some greats, nobody has ever been able to achieve that feat. And so, King Hollywood, if you're listening, congratulations to you for this feat and for making history on the island of Nevis, and congratulations to all of those who participated. Let me again mention Mr. Abernathy Liebert and the staff of the Culturama Secretariat and the members of the Culturama Committee for an exceptional job. Congratulations also to the NCDF staff, Mr. Jerome Rollins and his entire team, for the great job in production of Culture Pot and the Fashion Expo. And special mention is to be made of Mr. Kareem L.L. Herbert, who did an excellent job as a production manager for all of the events. If I can segue from culture to seniors, still under Minister Evelyn's remit, that Seniors Month is being observed under the theme Digital Equity for All Ages. We have a number of activities, including a radio program called Footprints on Vaughan Radio, presentation of You Are Not Forgotten Award to a number of seniors, radio programs on Take Me Back on Vaughan Radio, Take Away Lunch, and we apologize, we have had to curtail activities because of the pandemic, but nevertheless, we want to be very clear that we value our seniors, and I feel pleased, I've said so time and time again, that when I travel throughout the region, I always hear that St. Kitts and Nevis, and more specifically the island of Nevis, has the best seniors program in the region. We take care of our people, and that is what is important. They say that you judge a country on how it takes care of its seniors, and we take care of our seniors. And so we continue to celebrate with them and to celebrate them. All of us are here today because we stand on the foundation that they would have built. Let me move to health very quickly. I would wish to again encourage our people to go out and get vaccinated. Some say they're tired of hearing me say that. But I continue to say that vaccination provides the best defense for us against the COVID-19 pandemic and against COVID-19 in particular. St. Kitts and Nevis has had a very difficult time in the past few months with COVID. To put that in perspective for you, the island of Nevis only had about 22 cases in the first 15 months of this pandemic. And in the ensuing 3 months, we are now well over 300 cases. So the reality is that we have had a difficult time, and with additional cases have come, unfortunately, hospitalizations, and the ultimate price that some have paid, death. I said sometime, somewhere, that COVID has come to kill us. And it was blunt. Some say harsh, some say un-Premier-like, and undiplomatic. But I believe that the evidence all around the world was clear that COVID has come to kill. It hasn't come to have tea. It hasn't come to play dominoes. It has come to kill. And if you know, as we now know, that COVID kills, why would we not protect ourselves from it? The evidence, I believe, globally is clear. And the evidence here in St. Kitts and Nevis is clear. That those who are dying in disproportionately large numbers are the unvaccinated. Those who are suffering and going to hospital and struggling with this disease and being most afflicted by it overwhelmingly are the unvaccinated, to the point where I believe it is a truism that COVID has become the disease of the unvaccinated. Nevis is not like some places where they do not have the vaccine. We have the vaccine. And so I continue to encourage our people. You will realize that I have stayed away from the language of mandates. Let us remember that Nevis currently has no testing capacity. And so every sample that is taken in Nevis has to be sent to St. Kitts. And so we are wholly dependent on the labs on St. Kitts in terms of getting a response. And they have done an excellent job to date. But naturally, with the upsurge in cases and some difficulties that have been experienced, some delays have been encountered. Now, I will tell you, I traveled recently to attend the 76th United Nations General Assembly in New York. And I came back and had to quarantine at my home for 4 days. And I don't wish quarantine on a soul. It is not a pleasant experience, even when you're in the comfort of your own home. The idea that you're locked down, that you're unable to move about and interact with loved ones is very difficult. So I understand when people get frustrated. And I'm merely asking for their patience as we try to work our way through this. But one of the responses from Nevis is that we must get testing available on Nevis. And I'm pleased to announce that some time ago I said we had received a Quant Studio 5 PCR machine that is now here at our lab at the GMBC building. We have some reagents have been received and more are expected shortly. We are now waiting on a technician out of Trinidad who will come in to install and certify the biosafety hood that is required to create a sterile environment for testing. And we're waiting for that technician to confirm a date for travel, which we expect will be imminent. Our local lab staff will undergo PCR machine installation, and we have already hired additional staff. We have sent a request to PAHO for virologists to come in to do some training for lab staff, and we are waiting a response there. But in addition, we're not staying there. We have also now been granted approval to withdraw funds to make payment for a second machine, a Gen Expert PCR machine that we got through diplomatic efforts with the Japanese government. And we are to wire funds this week, so Nevis will have access to 2 machines, a Quant Studio 5 PCR machine and a Gen Expert PCR machine. Some may ask why, and the simple reason is redundancy. We want to be sure that when the demand for testing is highest, we can run both machines, but in the event that any of the machines were to go down, as we saw happening recently leading to backlog, we'll have a backup. And so we want to make that commitment that we hope in this month, October, we will have the machines up and running. I would have listened to the Minister of Health, the Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams, yesterday, and she made the point, but I want to reiterate, that we hear a lot of chatter in the public space about why is the machine not up yet, why are we not doing testing yet. It is not simple. It's not like a refrigerator or television. You just plug it in. There is a tremendous amount of training that is required and certification. Now, why is certification required? Because remember, when a test result is obtained, you use it to travel, you use it to board airlines, you use it to do various things. And so we have to be sure, and those receiving the test have to be satisfied that it's coming from a laboratory that is certified. And so there's a process. JNF, for example, took months in St. Kitts to get up to speed in terms of having their testing capacity installed. And the same process was undergone by Next Gen Labs and by Avalon, I think, who's also offering the service. But to us, this is a huge step forward because Nevis now will have the ability to test here on the island. So once a swab is taken, it goes to our lab and the test results are returned. The Mental Health Unit will be celebrating a week of activities in recognition of World Mental Health Day, which is the 10th of October. We start with a church service and we have a host of activities for mental health. We would want to continue to urge our people to take care of their mental health. Mental health is a critical part of overall well-being. The SKN Moves Nevis Move chapter, the SKN Move Nevis chapter will be having their annual Half Island Road Relay Walk on Saturday, the 9th of October, starting at 5:30 from Brick Hill and ending at the Fit Wellness Park. Teams of 5 and individuals were invited to sign up for the event. The activity is in its 3rd year and is a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Health and Fit Wellness. Of course, the purpose here is for all of us to lose a little weight and for all of us to lead healthier lifestyles. Non-communicable diseases continue to threaten us, and this is one way that we are responding by, as I like to say, inviting our people to get up, get out, and get moving. Some who can run, run. If you can't run and you can walk, walk, but get moving, get physical, and do some activity. I think it helps to reduce obesity. It helps, of course, to reduce the threats of things like diabetes and hypertension, major killers in our society. The Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, through the Health Promotion Unit, also launched Pinktober on the 1st of October. And this is, of course, our support and commitment to fight breast cancer. The month of activities started off with the lighting of the Nevis Nice sign outside the Artisans Village in Pinnis. And we're going to have a host of other activities, including a virtual podcast, Pink Lily Cancer Walk, and workplace educational sessions. So I would want, of course, for our people to support and be unanimous and overwhelming in our support of those who are suffering from any form of cancer. But I believe this month we look at breast cancer in particular. And so where you can, wear something pink, show solidarity, and support those who are struggling with this very deadly and dangerous disease. We also, of course, continue to promote screening. And we invite all of us, because men can get breast cancer too, but we invite all of us to do regular screening. Take your mammogram. I'm told that it's not a pleasant interaction, but it saves lives. So do your mammogram. And incidentally, we are also hopeful that we'll have some new equipment soon, including a mammogram machine. So we are ramping up our equipment here in terms of healthcare, and we are seeking to ensure that our people have access to the necessary healthcare here on the island, primary healthcare, and that is at an acceptable standard. So we invite all of us to continue. You can do self-breast examinations. If you detect any lumps or anything that is unusual, please see your doctor. And please go and get regular checkups, men and women. Too many of us, when you feel something, you say you have gas. It's something you ate. All of us know that. Every time you have a pain, you say it's gas. People have gas in the head, they have gas in the foot, they have gas all over. I believe it is time that we take our health seriously. We go to our doctor and we let the doctors tell us. And if you exercise, you eat right, you restrict your intake of alcohol, you practice safe sex if you're having any, and you ensure that you get regular checkups, I think our people will live much longer. And that's what we're seeking to do, to have our people live longer, healthier lives. That's important. So I urge you, please, to take this seriously. Let me end on a note of information to our non-nationals who live here in the island of Nevis. The Premier's Ministry wishes to advise all employers of non-nationals and also those who are resident permit holders who are currently outstanding on their work permits and residencies to settle arrears at the Premier's Ministry on or before the 31st of December. We're telling you this in October. Settle on or before the 31st of December. Applications for the renewal of all work permits and residence permits for 2022 are to be received by the Ministry no later than Wednesday, 29th December, so that you can ensure that you're in good standing. All persons who have not previously sought to have themselves regularized are asked to make application to the Ministry for the necessary correction of their status. We expect and request the support of all stakeholders as we encourage non-nationals to be regularized. Now, those are fancy words. Many people have gone illegal in the country because they neither have a work permit up to date nor residence. My government has been fully cooperative with our national community. I believe that we have been the most cooperative that any government has ever been. We have provided amnesties. We have provided reduced work permit fees. Why? Because we feel that there's a commitment that we have to our non-national community and that they contribute to the development of our island. And so we have partnered with them. But as we say here, one hand can't clap. So the government is extending its hand to the non-national community. We expect the non-national community, I come back to that word, to be responsible. So if you're having a difficulty, please come in. See Mr. Daniel, P.S. Daniel, and the team. We will work with you. But if you insist on being out there, refusing all entreaties, and you go illegal and immigration were to come and knock on your door, then you certainly can't hold any of us responsible, because time and time and time again, we would have encouraged you to do the right thing. So please, I'm urging that those non-nationals in the non-national community, that they please go out, come into the office, seek to regularize their position, and ensure that they are not afoul of the law. So I will end it there and invite your questions, members of the press, if you have any, and of course seek to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As it relates to how many persons would have been vaccinated since the introduction of the Pfizer vaccine, and what is being done to encourage civil servants to get vaccinated. Now, recently, the Court of Appeal would have dismissed Ms. Anba's case as it relates to Candy, and everyone is still unsure as to what the next step the executors have planned for this case. But if they decide to leave the matter, what happens next? I know previously you said that the Candy investors have left the island. Are you going to make an effort to get them back? And is there any plans, I don't know if it's by the NIA or by the investors, to correct or amend the EIA, just to ensure that no one else tries to take this matter to court? Thank you. That's all for now.
Okay. Monique, thank you very much, as always, for your excellent questions. Let me start where you left off on this vexed issue of Ann Bass and this litigation. Of course, Ms. Bass, of blessed memory, would have taken the NIA to court, the planning department, director of planning, alleging that the proposed Candy Resort, which you see over in St. James, half-built, that it somehow could damage the environment, and that the EIA that was produced was inadequate. I was particularly interested in that case because some scurrilous allegations were made about me personally, and this matter became a political circus where the opposition in Nevis sought to use it for political mileage. And I was very happy at the end of the day that the trial judge basically ruled against Ms. Bass and concluded that these scurrilous allegations, that there was no merit to them. Ms. Bass in the process passed on, and her estate decided that they will appeal that decision. So again, there was a delay while they got that together, and then they eventually appealed. The Court of Appeal has now ruled and has upheld the decision of the trial judge, basically throwing out the case again, saying essentially the same thing. And the case is available. If you were to go to the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court's website, you can find both judgments of the High Court judge and the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal was unanimous in dismissing the appeal. What they're going to do now, I don't know. Of course, normally you have a further appeal to the Privy Council in England, and whether or not they opt to do that will be a matter for them. But I take a step back and I look at what the island has lost. These folks had proposed to do, I believe it was 54 condominium units on 4.4 acres of land. We have lost the investment in terms of construction. We have lost the jobs in terms of management and landscaping and the care that is required in a project of that nature. And for what? And I truly ask that, for what? And the reason I ask for what is because an initial EIA was done for the project, and I want the people of Nevis to understand me clearly. An EIA was done. The question was not that an EIA was not done. The issue was raised as to the adequacy of that EIA. And one issue that was raised was that the EIA did not properly address the impact on the ocean because the 4.4 acres of land is next to the sea. What has not been said, and perhaps, Monique, it might be useful for your newspaper to have a look at, is that the developers have since submitted an amended EIA to address those concerns that were raised. And so one would have thought that if there was a genuine concern about the environment, and the EIA had defects in it, and the developers said, well, listen, we're going to do an addendum to the EIA to now address the issues that you would have raised, that would have satisfied the concerns. But obviously it did not, because notwithstanding that, the litigation continued. And notwithstanding that, the appeals continued. And so here we are, spending money, having to find money for lawyers to defend this case and defend the professionals at the planning department and what they would have done. Here I was being attacked, all sides. And at the end of the day, it has been 5 years, and we have unfinished, unsightly buildings now in St. James, no employment. You know, many of us, Monique, make noise and say there's no investors. Where are the investors? But when you get investors and they come, you have other people who seek to frustrate that investment. And I don't mind how you wrap it and disguise it as environment or this concern or that concern. If there were legitimate concerns and those concerns were addressed in a subsequent EIA, an addendum to the original, then why did the litigation not end? But instead of that, we have this ongoing saga of litigation, which really helps no one. The only people who benefit from litigation is the lawyers. I would want to thank, however, Ms. Jean Dyer from Anguilla. She was our chosen lawyer in this matter, and she has delivered in spades for the people of Nevis. She won at the High Court. She won again at the Court of Appeal. And I'm hopeful now that this is the end of that unfortunate matter with Ms. Bass and her estate, and so that the island can breathe again and move on with what it wants to do. What was particularly upsetting to me about this particular unfortunate 5 years is that Ms. Bass herself is a major developer on Nevis, has transformed an entire estate up at Tower Hill, has an entire beach compound that she has built. So you had one developer, a large developer, fighting against a small developer, saying that that developer is going to destroy the environment. The court has said that the principal basis was that because of the delays of Ms. Bass and then her in bringing the original case, that was fatal to her getting any relief. And that is the basis on which the matter was thrown out. So, the second part of your question, what do we do now? Yes, the investors have left, but yes, I've been in touch with them. And I'm saying to them that notwithstanding the lost time, that the island remains committed, the island remains in need of investment, and that if they are minded, the government will be willing to work with them to see what, if anything, can be worked out to seek to rescue some or all of the original development that had been scheduled there in the parish of St. James. And I would want to commit to the people of St. James and to the people of Nevis that we will continue to seek development for our island, to seek investment for our island, and we will continue to ensure that our environment is protected. The two things are not mutually exclusive, but there has to be some confidence in the government. And when we have people who operate as if they know better than those who are elected to serve the people of Nevis, I have a concern about that. And I won't even get into some of the discussions that were had and what was being proposed to us, because I think that those discussions made my blood boil, and it would make yours boil as well, in terms of what people were demanding of the government, essentially to say that there could be no development on Nevis unless they approved. You could imagine telling a government that? So I want people to understand what we're dealing with and what we've had to deal with. And a lot of them jump up, hip hip hooray, hip hip hooray. We're supporting, and they don't even know what is being done. Well, I'm here to say, as the Premier of Nevis, we are prepared to listen, partner, consult, but at the end of the day, our dignity and our independence and our pride is not for sale. And I'm very, very clear about that. And thank God for the court, independent courts, who have come to a determination. I would hope that the NRP would issue some statement and apology, because they were up and down like Christmas come early when this case occurred. And I walked into the magistrate court. I think the whole NRP executive was in there looking for something, because I had to go and give evidence. And at the end of the day, we are right. We were right. And the court has vindicated us in its entirety. And so I'm hopeful that it's an end of the matter. We can get on with some or all of the development and have at least a project there that, instead of an eyesore now, is actually something that we can be proud of. Testing, you ask, can we ensure that we have enough reagents to make it run smoothly? Well, reagents are consumables, so we'll have to continue to order. But I believe that we can do it, and we already have some in place, and we are getting others. Civil servants and vaccination, we continue to encourage our public servants. We continue to do so. Our public servants, many of them have been on the front line. Many have given service above and beyond. But we continue to say to them that they have an obligation to themselves and to where they work. And so we continue to encourage and urge, and I hope that we don't get to a point where we will have to demand. So at this point, we continue to encourage and beseech and beg and urge that the vaccine is here. Some said they didn't like the AstraZeneca, they didn't trust it. Well, we now have the Pfizer, which is FDA approved. So there really can't be, in my view, any objection on those types of grounds. So we're hopeful that people go out. The Pfizer uptake, I believe, I regret I don't have the numbers, but I think that the last numbers I saw in Nevis weren't that many. I think we were just about over 100 persons had taken that thus far. And so this is an opportunity for me again to call on those with children 12 and over to encourage the children to take the vaccine. It's safe, it's effective, and it will allow us far more ability to have our schools function in a normal manner. You know, we have now a system of partially virtual and partially in-person training. And when I speak to teachers, they're saying, naturally, the virtual is not as good. In fact, I heard a recent address by the governor of the central bank, and he made the same point, that it is suboptimal in terms of doing the virtual training. Monique, I'm sure for those of us who have children, particularly young children, you know how hard they are sometimes to control. And at least in the classroom, the teacher can say, Johnny, behave yourself. Stop talking, stop disturbing. How do they do that virtually? That's part of the problem. And I am learning, and I'm appealing to parents, because some of the children now are more capable than the parents when it comes to the technology. So I'm actually learning that children are logging on and then leaving. So as far as teacher is concerned, Johnny is online and in class, but Johnny not anywhere close to the computer. Johnny gone down the street to play. And the parents now, some of them, are not as tech savvy as the children. So the children, I'm told, particularly those who have parents who are out working, are logging on, but not in attendance. So that's something you can't get away with if you're in person. But virtually, that is the situation sometimes. So I feel that the best option would be for us to get to a point where we can safely go back to school as we know it. And the only way we'll achieve that is have our teachers go out and support staff at the schools get vaccinated, and those children 12 and over get vaccinated, and we get the vaccination levels as high as we can. That would be the ideal, and I'm praying and hoping that our people respond positively to that call. Any other questions for me?
Good morning.
Good
Mr.
morning.
Mayor, German Able SKN Vibes. I want to start off where you ended. Has the Ministry of Education or the government undertaken a study to determine the impact, effect of virtual learning on children in light of the fact of what you just mentioned? Because it's difficult to control children in front of screen. Adults sometimes get tired of sitting in front of screen. So has that been done? Additionally, can you speak to whether or not the government would have done a study or is in the process of doing a study to understand the impact of COVID-19 and the lockdowns on eating habits and the health of both adults and children on the island of Nevis? And two other questions. One sec. Can you explain the strategy that the government is using to bring cruise ships to the island of Nevis now that this tourism sector is slowly reopening? And also, another question has to do specifically with the impact on the budgetary allocation now that for the expansion of the Alexandra Hospital, now that a consultant has come on board and additional works and stuff like that will be undertaken.
Thank you very much for the questions. You asked if a study has been done to determine the impact of the virtual learning. The answer to that, as far as I'm aware, is no. But I'm aware that we are starting the process of getting surveys so that we can start to have that information. What I reported prior to your question was really the anecdotal information that comes to me as Premier and as Senior Minister with responsibility for education, particularly from teachers who are concerned and who report that some of the children are basically trying to, how should I put it, game the system and are down the road playing but appear to be online because they log on and leave. In relation to a study of eating habits, that has also not been done. It's a very good idea. It is not one that I had thought of or has been suggested to us, but I certainly will take that on board to see how the lockdowns would have changed people's eating habits, etc. Cruise ships to the island of Nevis. As you know, Nevis has never been a major cruise destination. That is not our model. But you are correct. We used to get some smaller ships, and we are hopeful that it is not too late for us to get some of those. The issue was really because much of the management of COVID, the protocols, etc., are set at the federal level. There was an understanding that because cruise is such a critical part of what St. Kitts does, that we would seek to focus on St. Kitts and cruise to try to get it restarted over there, and then, of course, see how those protocols work and then expand them nationally. That was the thinking. And as you know, I think St. Kitts has really only started in the last several weeks to have cruise ships coming there again. So the protocols are still being worked on and worked out. Even things like tours and what the tourists can do when they're on the island. They took a decision that, listen, let us look at a few tours for the cruise ship passengers. Let us see how they work, and then we expand. We are now, I believe, in a position where those protocols will have to be rolled out nationally, and so the island of Nevis will then be in a position to once again start to get the small ships that tend to come here. What we are concerned about in Nevis, more specifically, however, would have to do with, of course, our land-based tourism, heads in beds, as we put it, because, you know, the emphasis in Nevis has always been slightly different to the emphasis in St. Kitts. So Nevis has never really been focused on numbers in terms of mass or getting 1 million passengers. Nevis has always been focused on the length of time people stay, the amount of spend, and the heads in beds, the number of rooms that we have occupied. Because when somebody comes and they stay at the Four Seasons, they go out to eat, that's what we're looking at. But that's what our model has been. So we expect that we'll see that rolled out. In terms of the additional cost to the budget, I don't want to misspeak. I believe that the numbers I saw were just over $500,000 US that the cost was. So the additional work to get where we need to be at the Alexandra Hospital. The consultants, I'm aware, have been on island. I don't know if they're still here, but certainly they've been here over the past week. And we expect that the contractors are going to be back at work very shortly. Recall that we stopped the work, the shell having been completed, the building having been completed in terms of the exterior. We stopped the work so that we could know that the flow of the interior was exactly what we needed. And so we now have that. We've brought the expertise to bear, and we anticipate that the work will resume very shortly. Once that work resumes, we expect to be able to inaugurate that new wing of the hospital by next year, 2022. And we know it's been a while. We know it's been a significant investment thus far, but we think that it will catapult Nevis into the next 20, 30 years in terms of healthcare and our ability to deliver healthcare to our people. So we think that it's an investment that is worthwhile and that will pay dividends for us down the road. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Morning, Andre Huey, SK Newsline. A couple of questions regarding vaccination mandate, and you made reference that if that becomes necessary, that is something that will be looked at. Are you confident, at least from the NIA's perspective, that this is something that is legally foolproof, so to speak? There have been concerns and there have been challenges in some countries in the region and other places to mandatory vaccination mandates. The Citizenship by Investment Program, what's the current state of it as it really is for Nevis in light of the economic climate that we're in? And is the NIA satisfied with its share of CBI receipts over the last few years? And it was brought to our attention of a gentleman actually in Division who lives abroad by the name of Ashburn Liebert. He claims that he's a graduate of the Charlestown Primary School. He would have left prior to 1992. However, the school has been branded as established in 1992, and that has caused some concerns for him and other persons who would have graduated prior to that time. He said he spoke to you about trying to get that matter resolved. Can you comment on that, please?
Okay, in relation to Mr. Ashburn, a friend of mine, I know him well, very passionate about what date this school was started. I would have thought Mr. Ashburn would be passionate about the education that he got at the school. But he seems to be preoccupied with the date that the school was started. He did raise the matter with me. He has raised it, I believe, with everyone. But the truth is, Mr. Huey, we've been overcome with COVID. As Premier of Nevis, I'm trying to get jobs for people. I'm trying to deal with the health situation that we're struggling with. I'm trying to deal with all the challenges that we have. The date that the school was started doesn't, to my mind, fall into the category that COVID falls into in terms of addressing the types of issues that we're dealing with. So we have been overcome. I believe that the PS is here. He's aware of this issue, PS Daniel. If there is some rectification to be made, it will be made. And I've said to Mr. Liebert, don't fret yourself over these matters, because in the scheme of things, what is important is that you've got a good education. What the name of the building was, or what year is put on the school as being started, I don't know if that's nearly as relevant as the fact that you got a good education. So the preoccupation with what date the school was started has really fallen off the radar, because more important things, I perhaps should not put it like that. Let me say more pressing matters have come to the fore, like COVID, that we've had to deal with. It's no discourtesy to him. If there's something that needs to be addressed, we'll try to address it. CBI program, is Nevis satisfied with its share? The answer is no. And the answer is going to be no until we have a resolution of the issue between the federal government and the NIA about the share of CBI receipts. That is the reality of the situation. I have said time and time again that there has to be a sit-down. The two, federal government and NIA, have to sit and work out a formula for sharing what is a joint asset. CBI has been, by and large, the only game in town. And let's be blunt about it. CBI has fueled tremendous activity on the island of St. Kitts. Park Hyatt, you know, the big development that's down in the St. Paul's area. What's that? Well, Kittitian Hill. There's also a big development, Ramada. And you see a lot of developments that are being done there. There's a huge development that Mr. Keynes has done by the airport. You see support for customers of Skellig. You see support for the airlines coming in to RLB. All of that is coming from citizenship by investment. A lot of the stimulus that we were able to offer coming from citizenship by investment. A lot of the surpluses that we talk about each year, citizenship by investment. In Nevis, I'm borrowing to keep Nevis afloat. St. Kitts has surplus from citizenship by investment. I don't say these things to create any animus. These are the facts. And so there has to be a reckoning between the two islands as to how these resources are shared. Now, Nevis gets a monthly amount from the federal government as part of the processing fees and all of that. And that monthly amount is a fixed amount that comes each month. And I'm saying that's fine, but let us look at the bigger picture. You know, and we have had, I believe, some misguided commentators who treat it as if Nevis is being given a gift or help. I don't see how, when you get something that belongs to you, it's help. But there's some who have taken that particular line, which I think is unfortunate. And some, and the figure that I hear bandied about most is 200 million. Nevis get 200 million. Sounds like a lot of money. And a lot of people bandy it. That's the headline. Nevis gets 200 million. You know a headline I've never seen? How much does St. Kitts get? That would be a very interesting headline to look at. Nobody seems concerned about that question. But everybody is concerned about how much Nevis is getting. How much does the island of St. Kitts get? And if that question can be answered, I believe then we would have some perspective as to why I say that the current arrangement in relation to CBI is still not satisfactory and has to be worked on. I have said to the Honorable Prime Minister, whose office handles this particular program, that unity has been there now 6 years. It is time that this particular matter be dealt with and put to rest. It is beyond time. Prior to unity being there, we know the situation that Nevis got nothing at all. Nothing at all. In fact, under the previous NRP government and the arrangements with the then Labour government, where the NRP was in coalition with them, every time Nevis got money from the Citizenship by Investment Program, it was given to us by way of loan. L-O-A-N, loan. When anybody in St. Kitts got money, they use a different word. Grant. G-R-A-N-T, grant. I'm sure the public out there understands the difference between a loan and a grant, because a loan you have to pay back. In fact, as I stand here as the Premier of Nevis today, it is a matter for me of national shame that our airport, the Van Sammer International Airport, was mortgaged to the SIDF by the NRP government to secure a loan of our citizenship by investment money. These things can never be right. Morally, legally, they are reprehensible. They can never be right. And we are saying that it is time now that we correct all of those anomalies and ensure that the people of Nevis are treated as part of this country, as equal citizens entitled to the full fruits of their citizenship. And that is the position. And you look at any of the relief programs and anything that was done. You look at the roofing program, all of this citizenship by investment. People get roof, new roof. I hear people get new house and all. Out of the citizenship by investment program. Right? So we have to treat this, I believe, with some level of seriousness. And I'm speaking openly because I'm speaking the truth. And when you speak the truth, some may not like it, but it is the truth, and it remains the truth. So I'll end by saying that Nevis is doing much better, because if you move from 0 to something, you're doing much better. And we were at 0. So now we can say that we are getting something from the Citizenship by Investment Program. But when we look at the overall analysis, we are not getting anywhere close to a fair share from that program. And I want to make that very clear. And Mr. Hugh, if you can help me to design a headline and say how much SINC is got from the program, when we have some people who I think are misguided, focused, say Nevis get 200 million. So how much SINC is get? Suppose that headline said SINC has got 2 billion. Would that change hearts and minds and attitudes? So work on that headline for me, and let's see how we can get that done. Okay? CBI, what else did you ask me now?
Vaccine mandate.
Vaccine mandates. I think all the law that I have seen said that vaccine mandates are entirely lawful. There have been cases in Europe. There have been cases in the United States. In the US, I believe, a university mandated vaccines. They were taken to court. The court ruled that it was lawful. In Antigua, just yesterday, we saw a decision where the, I think it's Public Servants Union took the Antigua government to court. That was not on the merits, but that was thrown out. And I think the world has come to a view that because of the nature of COVID, that one's individual right, whatever that may be, can be overridden in the context of saying that a mandate is necessary to save lives. And I think that that's important, that any constitutional lawyer will tell you that whatever rights you enjoy under the Constitution, there's a carve-out, there's always an exception, right, for something that is reasonably required in a democratic society. So what is more important, your right not to take a vaccine or the right of others not to be infected by a deadly disease that has come to kill? That really is the debate. And I have seen some advice that has been given to governments across the OECS, a legal opinion that was written by our former Chief Justice of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Sir Dennis Byron, and Professor Rosemary Bell Antoine, a professor at the University of West Indies and an expert in labor law. And that opinion concluded that governments had the authority to mandate. And what you're now seeing is governments, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you're seeing it in Antigua and Barbuda, I'm told in Guyana as well, that governments are mandating. In Antigua now, they're saying that, as the Prime Minister there in his own inimitable style put it, no teacher can come on any public school compound unless they're vaccinated. And if they're home, they won't get pay. So they have to be vaccinated, and that is the position. As I said, we are not there here, but I am urging our people to be responsible and to do the right thing. So my short answer to you, Mr. Hugh, is I think the legal ground is very strong for those who can be forced to be vaccinated or to have vaccination mandates. And when you say mandates, you know, that's the language seems like you're sending out the police to hold somebody and hold them down and give them a vaccine. I want to be clear that that's not the case. Mr. Hewitt, that's not the case. It's not that the police are going to go and take you and forcibly administer a vaccine. That's not what a mandate means. What a mandate means is simply that you won't be able to access certain services, jobs, or whatever unless you can show that you've been vaccinated. And so some may argue, well, a teacher who comes into contact with unvaccinated students, a worker who comes into contact with the elderly, should those people not be required to have a vaccine? Of course, you can say, I'm not having any, and therefore I forego my job. But that's what the mandate means. The mandate doesn't really take away your choice in the sense of compelling you to do it. The mandate says, if you don't do it, then there's certain services. I was just in New York City, as I said, for the United Nations General Assembly, and I had to show my vaccination card to go into a restaurant. Any restaurant you went into, you had to show that you were vaccinated or you can't come in, right? So that's part of a mandate as well, because if you like to eat out, if you like to whatever, you can't go into the restaurant. In some countries now, you can't go to the groceries, you can't go to the nightclub, you can't do many things. You can't, I think in Canada now, you can't take public transport if you don't have your card to show that you've been vaccinated. As I said here, we're not there yet. But I want to make it very clear that if we need to get there to safeguard Nevis, then I would have no hesitation in making that decision. And so that's where we are in relation to vaccines and mandates. Any other questions for me?
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning.
Can you give an update on, first off, Shamika Budgeon, sorry about that, Von Radio. Could you give an update on the current COVID-19 patients that are currently warded at the Alexandra Hospital? Question 2, is the Penny's Park still on schedule to open in December of this year? And at your last press conference, I asked about the wearing of masks. In terms of what are the security forces and by all means the government doing in making sure that persons wear their masks in public? Can you give a brief update referencing this matter, as an enormous amount of persons are still being seen without wearing a mask? Thank you.
You say an enormous amount of persons. You report them when you see them, Ms. Budgeon? You call the police? Let me hear you, because you need to help
me,
us.
Mr. Premier, from what I've seen, I realize that the police sometimes they do see these people as well and they don't do anything.
They don't do anything, so you don't think there's any value in calling them?
Correct.
Okay. The mask mandate, Ms. Budgeon, remains in place. It's part of the protocol. And I know that there were teams out that were giving tickets. Now, Nevis was lagging behind because while Sinkis had a compliance force trained by the police that went out, in Nevis we were still relying on the police. And the problem, the police were complaining. They were short-staffed, understaffed. They had to monitor our quarantine stations. They still had to be expected to be on the road. They had to go to establishments to see whether or not the bars are adhering, etc. So we have finally been able to get some quarantine officers appointed for Nevis. I believe there's a dozen of them, and they're now undergoing the training. So once that training is done, I believe, will have greater enforcement. And I think that's what you're talking about. So the hope would be that they would be able to fan out across the island, go to the bars, the restaurants, ensure that people are wearing their masks. And since I'm on television, let me point out that I'm not wearing a mask because I'm far away from the members of the press, lest I be accused of being hypocritical on this particular issue. So, Ms. Budgeon, I think I agree with you. I, too, see what you see. And I believe that will change once we have the compliance officers fully employed and out at work. So they were delayed, I'm told, because of a COVID situation that they're trying to deal with, but we expect and anticipate that certainly this month we should have them in place. And I hope that by the next press conference, God willing, you'll be able to say that you see an improvement. You asked me whether the Penny's Park is on schedule. I would have said in my long soliloquy introduction that yes, it is. The construction of the park, of the buildings are at 88%, and the landscaping currently is at 77%. And we anticipate a grand opening on the 15th of December. That's the date that we're looking at. In relation to update on those in hospital, I confess I did not get an update prior to coming here, but the last update I had was that we had 4 individuals hospitalized, but there was nothing alarming. That, individuals come because COVID causes larger shortness of breath. They can't breathe, so they come and we try to assist them with the ventilators or respirators, the case may be, with oxygen, and most are able to return home in a few days. So I'm prayerful that we've had 2 deaths on Nevis that we don't have anymore, and I'm prayerful that the 16, I think, deaths we've had now in St. Kitts Nevis, that there are no more. I think that our people now understand how deadly this disease is and should respond accordingly by protecting themselves and their families. Any other questions for me?
Pleasant good morning. I am Bjorn Hanley of the Black Home channel, and you can find us on YouTube. Question number 1, information came to my desk that there are plans in place to increase the constituencies in Nevis for this coming local elections by 2 extra constituencies, 1 in St. John's and 1 in St. James. Question is, Mr. Premier, do you have any knowledge of this? Question number 2, Barbados is due to become a republic on November 30th. replacing the Queen of England as their head of state and pledging allegiance to the people. Question is, as Foreign Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, do you know if there are any plans in place for St. Kitts and Nevis to become a republic? Question number 3, Christmas is coming, but there are still a number of people in Nevis who are unemployed. My question is, will the Nevis Island Administration introduce an unemployment benefit grant in time for Christmas? Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hanley, thank you very much for your questions. I think that it's popular, Mr. Hanley, for some persons to speak of government and government's provision for our people as if the government has a limitless supply of money, as if getting money to do something is just like you go down to Pinny's Beach and get a bucket and take a bucket of water from the sea. We have provided time and time again various forms of relief to the people of Nevis over what none of us expected would be a 2-year journey. I have said publicly that when COVID erupted, I really thought that, one, it wouldn't get here, because as I said, I had not even heard of Wuhan. But two, that if it got here, that we would be able to deal with this in short order. I don't think any of the experts expected a 2-year situation with COVID. And so along the way, the government keeps being called upon, do more, give more, grant, find money, help people. And that is the government's responsibility to help people in various ways. But the truth be told, Mr. Hanley, that whenever the question comes about the government finding money to give, the question is, from where? It's always the issue. We don't have the money. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend. I have said time and time again that our revenues are down by over 20%. Our hotel sector is still struggling, so we don't have the money. So the option is to try and go and borrow more to give to people, as you say, a Christmas grant. We, as I said, I believe, have tried our very best to manage the little we have and to help as many as we have. We've given relief at Nevis, we've given relief at the Water Department, we've given relief to our farmers and our fisher folk. We've assisted in lowering taxes for our people. We have waived fees. We have done all that. And the question is, really, what is our capacity to do more? I would love for all of us, Nevisians, especially those who are vulnerable, to be able to get, as you say, something in their pocket for Christmas. It, however, is unrealistic to think that any government can simply find money to give away because Christmas is coming. What instead we're trying to do is what we have been trying to do throughout this pandemic, is to encourage people to be responsible, to say to persons that, listen, things are difficult. If you have to adjust in terms of not liming as much, not drinking as many Guinness, not doing whatever, then adjust. But also trying on the other end to create jobs. And I am very pleased that in that regard, we see a construction industry that is doing quite well. We see agriculture that is doing quite well. We are even now discussing some new protocols for tourism that I think will be a shot in the arm for the tourism industry. And the hotels are telling us, once we can get the quarantine thing right, they expect that they can have guests coming. A property like Four Seasons, for example, has indicated quite clearly that they are in a position to take on people if they can get the groups that they have scheduled to come. So it is a sort of, how should I put it? Like any economy, one thing impacts the next. Because it takes me to the first question, and you say, I'm sorry, the second question you posed about jobs and a lot of people being out of work. And you came some weeks or months ago at a press conference, and you raised the issue, and I said, well, how do we get people back to work? And part of getting people back to work is to get them vaccinated. I would have thought that on that issue, all of us would be singing from the same hymn sheet. That we would be in the same pew in the same church and singing lustily. You know, Mr. Hanley, I have admired across our region, the response in different places. In Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Bisesa, leader of the opposition, former prime minister. I was impressed beyond measure to see Kamla and her party organizing buses to take their supporters and take their people to get vaccinated. In St. Lucia, the now Prime Minister Pierre, when he was in opposition, led his entire team on camera to go and get vaccinated. You see that effort being replicated in Jamaica, where the Minister of Health, Christopher Tufton, had a broadcast online with the shadow Minister of Health, that is the man in the opposition, I can't remember his name, but for the PNP, sat together, said whatever our differences politically, on this matter, we are together. People must go out and get vaccinated. What have you got in St. Kitts and Nevis? Me not tell nobody to do it. Me not tell nobody don't do it. It's up to people to make up their mind. You can't force nobody. People are waffling all over the place. And nothing, I think, could help our economy more. Nothing could help our people get back to work more than for opposition and government to hold hands on this issue. I don't know what others around the region have done, but as Premier of Nevis, I have met with the opposition in Nevis. And I have begged and beseeched Mr. Hanley. The only thing I didn't do was get down on my knees. Could we hold hands on this? Let's fight about other things. But on this, which is life and death, which is about getting our economy going, could we hold hands? There's no politics in this. Let us hold hands. You know why there's no politics in it? Look at Mr. Pierre in St. Lucia. When he was leader of the opposition, he came out boldly with his team. Vaccination is the way to go. Guess what? He's now prime minister. But he understood, even as leader of the opposition, that if he ever got into the big chair, COVID ain't going nowhere because the government changed, you know. COVID is still there. And he recognized that he needed the public to respond to what, up to now, is our best defense against COVID, which is the vaccine. Tell me which opposition leader or member you have heard in Nevis or St. Kitts come out forcefully and say, vaccination is the way to go. Let us, as a party, as a community, get vaccinated, because that is the only way. How are we going to get the economy restarted? If every 2 weeks you hear cases rise again, you got a lockdown, you got a shutdown, curfew. If you're running a bar or restaurant, Mr. Hanley, curfew, you got to close at 8. How are you going to make money? And then you have to lay off some people, and then people know. The same people look at the government and say, oh, you're not creating any jobs. It's difficult. So these are some of the things which I think there ought to be no difference. And I look, again, as I said, to where I've seen leaders, Cora Richardson, Hodge and Anguilla, went on camera with the rest in opposition, went on camera with the government, took her shot on camera. We don't even know what the status of some of the people in the opposition is in Nevis, whether they're vaccinated or not. Not one of them has come out and said to the public, I am vaccinated, it's safe, I suggest you get vaccinated. I don't know when I see them whether I could shake their hand because they're safe or not. Come out. Take a stand, because we're talking about people's lives and livelihoods. So that's important. Barbados becoming a republic. I have not had that discussion, I'll be honest with you, here locally. There's been no appetite for it in my own interaction with members of the public in St. Kitts and Nevis. It is not a matter that has occupied any political space here, and I have not heard it said whether by government or opposition, current or past. So I really do not know if there's any appetite here to move in the direction that Barbados is moving in. They say they're becoming a republic. God bless them. That's a matter for them. Constituencies, raising the number of seats to 7. I believe we said that in our manifesto, actually. So that is not, in fact, anything new. We probably would have moved in that direction already, were it not for COVID, because COVID has forced all of us to refocus and to look at other things and to deal with the life and death issues. Is it off the table? No, but I do not know if we'll be able to accomplish it given the time frame now. As I said somewhere before, that I've lost 2 years. This government has literally lost 2 years of its term, because we have had to shelve plans and put things to one side while we try to focus on fighting COVID. Money that we had to do this or do that, we've had to divert to health, you know, for ambulances and PPE and all of these things. So it has been a situation where things that I think were aspirational, we have said, listen, let's put that to one side and let's focus on getting our public servants paid on time, our pensioners paid on time, and keeping the lights on in the government, keeping the lights on at the hospital. And those are the stark choices that we've had to make. So if you're asking if this will be something that's done for the next local election, I can't say, because a local election, as you know, can come at any time. So I can't speak to that. Any other questions?
As it relates again to testing, when testing comes on board later this month, will there be a cost per test? And if so, how much will that be?
Short answer is there will be a cost. How much that will be is still being worked on. So I can't answer the how much yet, but there will be a cost. We could not afford to do free testing. We will try, however, to have a cost as low as possible, because we do know that that's one of the complaints that some persons have, is the cost. But I will tell you that the majority of testing and testing costs is being borne by us, the taxpayers. Because when we do contact tracing, for example, we don't charge people for those tests. Not to say the test is free, but the government pays the bill. And I can say publicly right now, we have outstanding bills with the labs and Sinkits that we are fighting to clear. Because every week you have literally hundreds of tests going. So you try to multiply 100 by, what, 125 US, 150 US, something like that, and you start to get a sense of how much we are spending on tests. So if, for example, somebody in here, God forbid, were to test positive, and they say, well, all who is in this room have to be tested, you will not pay for that test. The government has to pay for that test because it's part of the contact tracing. The only time people pay is when, for example, they're traveling. So if you're traveling abroad or whatever, that's a voluntary test that you take and then you pay. So the truth is that even now the bulk of cost of testing falls on the government and therefore the people. So we will have to take that into account when we try to design a costing mechanism for tests once they're introduced here. But the idea here is really to have something that is efficient, that is quick, that is certified, and that will give us results back in a timely way, but also that's affordable. Any other questions for me?
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good morning. Still morning?
Yes, I know, so I'll keep it brief. You've had a robust interaction with the media, so I will just stick to one question at this point. The housing situation in Nevis in terms of the government, I see, I mean, the NIA has been rolling out housing projects left and right in the past couple of weeks, and I hear some more are to come. How can you give us an update on that situation?
Well, thank you very much. And I must say that I'm quite proud of the housing revolution that we have seen. And let's face it, that even with COVID, the demand for necessities like housing, that demand has not abated. And I said earlier that of the lots that are available, 21 in one location here in town and 14 in another, we had over 100 applications. So it means that only 35 people can be accommodated, but over 100 applied. And so a lot of people out there are frustrated. They're saying they want a home and they're not getting a home. And we continue to ask people to be patient with us because it's difficult, but we also ask the private sector to intervene. But I think that the Deputy Premier and Minister responsible for housing, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, should be commended because he's really done a phenomenal job in housing. Bearing in mind what we would have inherited, and he has spoken to it time and time again at the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, and the lack of resources that we found there when we got into office in 2019. In the first term of the new CCM administration, under the leadership of the Honorable Vance Emery, we would have been able to do 56 homes during that term. We have ramped up considerably since then, and I can say that thus far in this term, starting in 2017, we've done 77 homes, and we have on target now an additional 100, let me get this right, forgive me, 77 we have an additional 111 homes that are scheduled. And just to give the press a sense of where those homes are going to be, there are going to be homes done at Mountain Crest, that is the development here at Craddock Road, 21. There are going to be homes at Hamilton, 14. We're going to be doing homes at University Heights, another 8 homes, 13 lots in all told, 5 have been done, so another 8. We're going to be doing homes at Nisbet Estate, 4 more to be done. We're going to be doing homes in Rice's Village, 9 homes. We're going to be doing homes at the Cherry Garden Extension. That name, they tell me don't say the name. They're going to unveil the name at the groundbreaking. It was 16 homes. Cedar View is going to have an additional 31 homes. Already Cedar View Phase 1 has 29. Cedar View Phase 2, 19. Cedar View Phase 3 will have 31 homes. And what I think is instructive, when we look at the homes and where we built homes in Church Ground, Cedar View, Maddens, Nisbet Estate, New River, Cohoons, Cherry Gardens, University Heights, Hard Times, Bart Village, and we've also done some private homes as well. Matter of fact, I'm told that we have 6 private homes that we're currently dealing with, and we would have done since 2017 11 private homes, and certainly 24 private homes since 2013, because sometimes private people who have land can go and speak to the corporation as well about engaging with them and getting the homes done. So I think all in all that we have quietly been revolutionizing housing here. I would want again to commend the Deputy Premier and his team, Mr. Dexter Boncampo there at Nevis Housing, the board, and all that they've done in seeking to provide affordable housing for our people. Notice I didn't say low income, affordable housing for our people. I'm told that the minimum now cost on the homes is just over $200,000, but some are a little bit more expensive as people try to get 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, etc. So we're trying to do our very best to facilitate and to assist in terms of homes. But I'm quite pleased with the numbers that we are building homes, and we're building it all across the island of Nevis. Any more questions for me?
Shamika Bajan, Von Radio. Still on health, Mr. Premier. And I'm happy that you spoke about testing. I've been told that the COVID testing facility is situated at Long Point here on the island. Through contact tracing, I've been told that some persons are being seen dropped off at the facility via passenger buses to get tested. And if this is true, that is not safe for other passengers that may be on board the same bus or buses. So what can the government and the task force implement to change this? And in Jamaica, the Prime Minister has indicated that a decision has been made to make hospital beds mandatory, to not make hospital beds mandatory for COVID patients, as the hospitals are running out of beds, and there are also a number of persons that need medical care for a number of other serious diseases. If it gets to that point here on Nevis, where there are no more available beds, can we see such a decision being made here in the future? Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bajan, thanks again for your questions. Thought-provoking. I always remind everyone that I'm not a soothsayer, and therefore I can't tell you what will happen in the future. What I can say is that I pray to Jehovah God that we do not get to that position. However, the Prime Minister would have recently announced, again through diplomatic efforts, that we are being afforded 2 field hospitals by the United States government. One on St. Kitts, I believe, due to arrive this week, and the other on Nevis, due to arrive on October 23rd, I believe. Those field hospitals will have a capacity, I'm told, of 40 persons, and therefore 40 beds, essentially. So I'm hopeful that that investment will help if we ever get to the situation that you're describing, where we are running out of beds at the hospital. You will realize, however, it's already having an impact in Nevis, because we have already taken certain tough decisions in Nevis that certain processes and certain procedures we are not going to allow. So if something is elective, what they call elective surgery, it's not life-threatening, we have said to people that they have to wait, because we don't want to clog up the hospital with individuals who are non-COVID. So COVID is already having an impact on our health system in that regard. If you have people in the hospital, you know, you can't visit them as you used to. If you have people at the flamboyant home, you can't visit them as you used to. So these are the types of restrictions that have been put in place that we must understand are now impacting all of us. And so the question you raised is a very important one. The issue about Long Point and testing, you said testing facility. It is actually, we don't do any testing there. We only collect the samples, because as I said, the testing is being done on sink kits where the labs are. When we get our equipment up and running, we'll then be able to test the Nevis. But I take your point, and if individuals are taking public transport to go there, then that is obviously a no-no. That's very risky and very dangerous. What can the government do about it, Ms. Budgeon? The government, what we can do, but continue to encourage people to be sensible and be responsible.
What about those that don't have their own transportation? What can be done?
Well, if it is that they don't have transportation, I think that some arrangement can be made. For example, if they were to get in touch with us, I see no difficulty in going and having them tested where they are, right? But the truth is that Nevis is a heavily transportation-rich island. I don't know many people here who don't have access to some form of transportation. But getting on a bus, a crowded bus with others, knowing that you're going to test for COVID, is downright reckless. It's downright reckless. And, you know, the question often comes, what is the government going to do about it? But what are our people going to do? We can't monitor every bus. We can't ask everybody who enters a bus, are you going to the Long Point to get... The bus driver himself needs to be responsible and protect his passengers and say, no, if that is the way you want to go, I can't accommodate you. Because you may make the $5 to take somebody to Long Point, but then you come down with COVID and you're home for 2 weeks, not earning at all. So what will be worth it, the $5 or the amount of foregone income for 2 weeks? That's how we need to start to think. So our people need to be responsible and take responsibility. If you know you have COVID or you've been exposed, stay home. Isolate yourself. Some people are up and about like nothing happened. So they're supposed to be thinking, oh, they got to run to the supermarket, they got to go in town to pay the bills. And so they're out knowing that they shouldn't be out. So our people, because if you have a couple hundred people who have tested positive, there is no conceivable way with the resources available to us in Nevis that we could have somebody monitoring each of those individuals. We have talked about, you know, electronic devices, a bracelet of some kind, but that has not yet come on stream. So we continue to appeal to people to be responsible and to be sensible about what they do and understand that even if they don't have symptoms, that they can still infect other people. And if they infect somebody, particularly somebody with underlying issues, that can mean a death sentence for that individual. And none of us, Ms. Budgeon, want to be the cause of somebody else's death. So I'm encouraging people to be sensible. So the situation in Jamaica, as I said, I pray doesn't reoccur here, but I'm hopeful that the field hospitals will at least give us some alternative. And as you know, my government was proactive in outfitting a place at Prospect as well, where we have, I believe, is availability to accommodate 8 persons as an off-site isolation area. Again, we're investing in things that we hope we never need, and that is the current position. Are there any more questions for me?
For me, good morning again. 2 short questions. One, you went to great lengths to appeal to the public, to especially teachers, to come out and get vaccinated. But what is the breaking point for the NIA to say the vaccine is now mandated across the public sector and, to an extent, the private sector? At what point that is going to happen? We saw this happening on sink kits. Has the government, or through the Ministry of Education, seen students or parents allowing 6 students to come to school, which in the classroom being the result of the increased cases within the classrooms across the island. And finally, from me, local government election is scheduled for some time. It's imminent. How is the government preparing for that during COVID, because we're in the period of COVID? How is the government preparing to host the elections? I know it could be done within a year during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I'm not always certain that I understand the language that is employed, because I'm not sure what you mean by imminent for local elections. I mean, elections are, by my tally, about 18 months away. So I don't think that's imminent. In any event, we had a full-fledged general election just last year, the 20th of June. So there's precedent for running an election if and when that time comes. But I don't think that we should have to be too preoccupied with elections right now. I mean, we are working to get Nevis back on a sensible footing. We are working on regaining the momentum that we had and that we lost, that was robbed from us by COVID. And I think that that is where our mindset is at this point in time. So for all those out there preoccupied with elections, I suggest they find some work to do and go and get vaccinated and encourage people to get vaccinated so we can get the country back up and running. That, to me, is where our focus needs to be. In terms of a breaking point, I can't answer that question. I can't tell you that we are at a point where we say, if X happens, then Y. I just continue to encourage people to get vaccinated, but to say to them that if it gets to the point where the numbers aren't moving, I will be very unhappy, for example, Mr. Huey, if we have a situation where people we have to discard vaccines because they expired, for example. I'd be very unhappy about that. When we have people here who are refusing to take a vaccine, and we have brothers and sisters all around the world, including places in Africa, who have not yet got a vaccine, including right here in our Caribbean, Haiti, where they're so far behind. And yet we have vaccines here, and people are just deciding, I'm not taking any. And, you know, leaving themselves vulnerable and leaving others vulnerable as well. So we continue to appeal, as much as I could say on that. 6 students coming to school, I haven't had those complaints, but I assume that sometimes, particularly if people are asymptomatic, because that continues to be a concern. We can have COVID and no kind of symptoms. And so you may well feel, my child good enough to be playing and thing as usual, so why they can't go to school? When in fact that child might have tested positive. But again, I get back to a word I've been overusing today of people being responsible. And parents themselves need to be responsible also. And if their children have COVID or children have been exposed, to keep them in quarantine or in isolation and be guided by the health protocols and not exacerbate an already bad situation that we have on the island. Are there any more questions for me? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again, members of the press. Thank you all very much for coming and for being a part of this engagement. We've had, I think, a good 2-hour chat, and I hope to be back in due course to answer any further questions that you may have and to provide additional information as and when required. As I like to remind you, this is part of our good governance agenda, part of our attempt to be transparent. So thank you all very, very much, and I look forward to seeing you on another occasion.